Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Adam versus the Man. Got a big block of COVID for you catching up. We had too much good news yesterday. Couldn't get to the COVID. Although we did cover that there's a place where what is it, St. Vincent, with the volcano eruption. They said that if you're not vaccinated, you can't get evacuated. Don't worry, we have scarier things about COVID going on than that. We've got, I don't know, actually, we got to say what is it now? I guess day one was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. We're on day 6 of Stephen McClure in jail when we were expecting it to be an overnight. And gee, well, we do have some attorneys supposedly on their way in to see him. We'll see how that goes. Very excited to be getting him out of jail and back to home front battle buddies as soon as possible. But looks like if everything proceeds, worst case scenario, we've got Fina Bano in Hawaii stepping up to do home front battle buddies, organizing for this retreat. But we really want Steve in there. We still don't know everything that's going on for charging documents and police reports and things like that. But we'll keep you updated as we go. Ed Vallejo joins us in the co-host chair today. We've got, after our COVID block, we've got an interesting grab bag, some police state updates. Yeah, you knew that was coming, right? And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, producer Jim with the promos this morning. How you doing, Jim?
What up, sir? How you doing?
I have a big mug of coffee in front of me. So
by the end of the show, you're going to be wired, and we're going to go long because you're going to be on a long rant.
Sticker on the bottom. It's like my newish mug. Yeah. So we'll see if we can balance the weed with some caffeine, and then you'll see like the equivalent of normal unmedicated Adam.
There you go. Perfect. Balance it out. Everything in moderation.
Especially moderation.
Yeah, especially moderation.
See, this thing has a bottle. This is a Bubba keg. It has a bottle opener built into it, and I have to take the sticker off if it's going to be on camera. It's still too much of I need a freedom sticker, cover the Bubba logo, then we'll be good. But yeah, I think this might be the new studio mug.
Nice. So for the promos, everybody knows we have a public Telegram channel that's pretty awesome. If you'd like to join it, it can be found at t.me/Adam versus the Man. Our co-host Ed Vallejo today, he's got a contest for you. He'll be getting to that. And if you win Ed's contest, you're going to win access into the private producers club, also on Telegram. So that's going to be fun, and look forward to that. But if you don't want to participate in the contest, or you don't think you're going to win, you don't have confidence in yourself, number one, keep talking to yourself, because you should have confidence in yourself, and that's the best thing. Number two, go to the website, adamversustheman.com. You can just click on Patreon. You can just buy your way into the producers club with $10 a month support. So there's as much as 2 Starbucks coffees a month. You can support the show, and you can get access into the producers club, get the links for everything we talk about, even the stuff we don't talk about. So definitely get involved and be a part of that. After that, feel free to visit the shop, because now that you're a Producers Club member or a better patron, you're going to get 15% off and free shipping from everything purchased in the store here. So feel free to give that a scroll through. You can get everything with the Adam vs. the Man Show logo or the Freedom logo on anything you want. So definitely give that a check out, and take advantage of the 15% off and free shipping while you got it. After that, you can click on the Cigar Federation. That's our affiliate program, one of our allies. They offer a great selection of cigars for you to choose from, exotically flavored, whipped cream, all kinds of stuff. And you can use promo code ADAM10 to get 10% off your entire order there, no matter how big or small. So that's definitely a great deal. Check out cigarfederation.com and shop your heart out. Get as many cigars. Start buying stuff for people's birthdays and shit.
And it's about cigar weather here, man. We need to start getting at it again.
Yeah. Cigars and sunsets is going to start being a thing again. So start getting stocked up on your cigars, so you can join Adam on Twitter for his live smoking cigars and sunset Friday.
It's better with you here, Jim. Better with you here. But I like that you
Yeah,
say we're allies of the Cigar Federation. We're not quite members of the Federation.
right.
We've yet to be officially initiated and invited and vetted to be part of the Federation, but we are at least formally allies of the Federation.
Right. People need to buy more shit for us to get upgraded status. So, if you want to see everything that's going on up there in Gardenia, he's got a bunch of beautiful shit going on. Buildings going up, all kinds of projects going on. This is the beginning of a very productive spring and summer, I have a feeling. So if you want to check out what's going on with that, you can go to Instagram and type in at the Garden of Freedom. That's going to give you access to see all the beautiful pictures of everything going up there in Gardenia. He's been posting like crazy. So give that a look and check everything
That's
out.
this
Also,
that's like the
go.
only this is the only thing I like actually actively do on social media right now, other than this show itself. It's like I just like it. I I don't worry, people. I hate Instagram. Don't worry. I don't love Instagram. I'm not like a Zucker sucker or anything like that. But no, the if you can use I think my Instagram use is pretty healthy because like I have alerts for the people who I want to see, and I post a photo album for the Garden of Freedom that people can go look at. It's and as that kind of service, it's very convenient, very practical. It's only toxic when you spend a lot of time scrolling your feed, and if unless your feed is very carefully curated, and even then you're looking at a lot of ads on Instagram now. It is saturated. It is, yeah. Same thing with the Facebook feed and even Twitter. Like even Twitter, they will. In this, I don't know. We haven't talked about this. We haven't got talked about social media a whole lot lately. Uh, but Twitter seems like there's a lot more promoted posts on Twitter, and I haven't been like as active. Like I used to be. It was Twitter for everything conversationally, and then Instagram for photos, and then everywhere like YouTube that we broadcast for video for me. And I've noticed now, like I think it's increased, but like if you go look at someone else's profile, they'll put promoted tweet in that stream, and it's kind of weird how I notice now even it messing with me in subtle ways, and eventually I just it sort of degrades the experience, and I kind of tune out. But Twitter, uh, and it's getting to full ad level as they're at now. Like it's been a weird process. Twitter for I don't know if anybody else feels the same way as I do about this because I got into Twitter very late, like in the last couple of years, sort of became like a legit active, engaged, organic Twitter user and enjoying it and just interacting with people like that. Not even having anyone like do Twitter for me professionally. It's just me, just talking to people, and it was fun. And I still enjoy it, but there's got to be. I mean, for me, this show is the best. Your comments are the best. Being able to get and we used to get a lot more emails than I would read on the air. I don't know, like people asking for advice, or maybe I'm just really behind on my emails right now, but we should be incorporating that into the show and encouraging that. But I mean, really, the live comments, people asking questions and interacting, like this is really fun. But if there's something that becomes like Twitter, and I part of the appeal of Twitter for me is that it is the big public conversation of record that is Twitter, right? It has taken on a certain sort of extra quality. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know where you're going with that.
And this is why like they're trying to this is their excuse now to say, well, we have to regulate it as a public utility. Twitter is a public utility, and it's like, okay, so they claimed water and electricity. Well, fuck you, solar. Well, fuck you, water generation. Fuck you, I'm going off grid and collecting water off my roof and getting a well and blah blah blah. Like, oh, you own Twitter now, government? And Jack Dorsey's a billionaire because you paid him off to buy him out of the epic public utility that he created. Okay, how long till that's obsolete? But don't worry, Dorsey will get his payoff if he hasn't already. I think he's got enough money. What's Jack
Yeah,
Dorsey worth, by the way? Anybody know off the top of your
too
head?
much.
Google that shit. Somebody Google that.
Yeah, Google that shit because I don't know. The one thing I like about the Instagram, your Instagram in particular, the Garden of Freedom, I don't know. I just feel like it's cool. Like for anybody that watches you, any kind of regular, or anybody like think like this is a horrible example, but like when you're watching Joe Rogan or some big name person and you're listening to their podcast, I always wonder like what their personal life is like, what their life is like at home. And yeah, most podcasters have an Instagram, but they'll just show like pictures of them doing this or doing that. I don't know how to describe it, but yours is different because yours is like you scroll through your Instagram and you can literally feel like you've been at Gardenia. You can feel like what you go through on a daily basis. You know what I mean? Other
Do I need
people
to take
just
more pictures of people using the voting booth then? Because that's like a daily part of life in Gardenia that has not been sufficiently covered on our Instagram page.
yeah, yeah.
It's a thing. If you so we have an outhouse. It's a bucket outhouse here, and I spray painted on it a long time ago. Voting booth, and it's like the most persistent inside joke here because nobody like it's nice to have a euphemism to talk about taking a dump because taking a dump is gross. Like everybody agrees generally. I mean, except for some of the Germans. But generally taking a shit is like we're programmed to be averse to fecal matter, and that's okay. You're like, yes, as long as we're not squeamish or like affected by our squeamishness, it's okay to say, yeah, we want to sort of sterilize or just, kind of get that out of our lives, right? And so here it's very simple, like poop in a bucket, add, ash, sawdust, whatever, let it dry out. We don't do like full humanure process it, but put it back into the earth when it's sort of decontaminated and use it to feed the trees in sort of like crude um, humanure simplified process. But yeah, so we don't even call it taking a shit here. We go, oh man, I gotta go vote. Vote early, vote often. Man,
I gotta go cast a ballot.
I feel an irresistible statist urge to vote today. So yeah, I'm gonna go. So that, but I appreciate what you said about that, Jim. I will say I do think my Instagram for the Garden of Freedom, and when people are here, and we need to get Joey and Pat plugged into this to increase the stream here. Like I just let anybody who's here like post to the Gardenia Instagram and I see it, so I can delete stuff if I don't like it, right, or take it down and edit it and like repost it. But um, it is kind of an unfairly beautified artistic vision of Gardenia, I think, because it's a lot of sunsets and time lapses of epically beautiful skies, and not a lot of taking out shit buckets.
Yeah.
But it's a real like it's a kind of a crude life still. We're about to have our first. Well, we've had RV indoor plumbing here. We have the outdoor shower. I love and regardless of the weather here, really taking a shower outside or it's in a booth kind of thing, and it's covered, but in open air is a really cool experience. I'm afraid I'm gonna miss that when I go back to indoor plumbing in the cabin. I'm gonna be like, shit, I want to go walk around naked and cold for a while. Like, I don't know, but yeah, we won't have enough of that covered here on the Gardenia Instagram page. But we're about to we're kind of at a critical mass of development, and I appreciate what you said too about spring summer here being a productive one with Homefront Battle Buddies coming in, with the cabin project, with the studio almost done here, getting storage organized, a few more comfortable living spaces, the camp kitchen really set up, a few more domes. There's a bunch of things happening out here, and it's like I don't need to go shopping anymore. I've got you come out here and it might look like a giant junk pile, and I see just a ton of projects that haven't been assembled yet. And there's a lot of that. But yeah, we're it's hard to convince people. Like we do have enough of a winter for it to be a serious winter. We had a foot of snow, literally a legit like a foot of snow on the ground at one point over the winter this year in Arizona in the mountains, right? and that's rare that it sits there all at once. But it's enough that like you don't really want to invite people out here for the first time in the middle of winter or when the roads are still super muddy. As fun as that's been with my newish truck, but yeah, there are a lot of projects coming together right now, and we have some more people inbound. We've had a handful more guests as the weather has been warming up already. Maybe we'll get some of them to stay. Maybe we'll kidnap some of them. Who knows? What's the term for a king to just like say, "I own you now. You live here"? Is there
I'm
edict
the king.
by edict of the king? Fuck you. I own you
Yeah,
now.
there you
Yeah, we'll just do some of that, right? Okay. So that being said, anything else, Jim? Before we get, we should have had an add up for this whole conversation here. We're gonna ramble about homesteading before a big news show.
go. Yeah, true that. Well, okay, just a couple more quick things. One, you've heard me say it, the crypto6.com. You should click on it and visit it and watch the minute and 19-second video to get up to speed on what's going on with them guys. And then if you feel so compelled, scan one of these QR codes to donate its corresponding cryptocurrency to help these guys out, get lawyers, and get unscrewed by the government. And if you want to be more like Adam and get yourself off grid, get yourself self-sustaining, get yourself a windmill, go to gogreenenergyonline.com. They got micro wind power, they got solar power, zero energy homes, all kinds of information on this website. So definitely check it out, give it a scroll around, and educate yourself on self-sustaining living. One more thing I want to say, I know I already brought it up, but CJ, our good friend, has pointed out to me that our shop has new items. So I wanted to point that out before I go off of the promos. If you click on the shop like you see here, and you go to this button and you click on sort by latest, it's going to bring you to a new, there they are, new items that we have. We've got buttons now and a backpack, a stainless steel travel mug. There's the panties and the boxers, all kinds of fun items. So definitely give the shop a check out, and don't forget to use your 15% off free shipping. 15% off and free shipping. Very important. So here we go. Let's get our co-host on.
And I know you've been like itching to weigh in on half of what we've been talking about homesteading, right?
Not really.
Yeah, okay. I took I got to take snow showers this winter. I don't know what you call it, a snow shower where you just grab a handful of snow and scrub yourself down with that, and then squirt a little like liquid soap onto one, and then do it again. And yeah, it was really fun. You know, if you don't get to do that in your place. How much snow do you get?
Do that. No. I got maybe 3 inches one time and 4 inches another time, and then just 2 or 3 light dustings, but that's about it.
You're at a lower elevation, aren't you?
Yeah, plus I'm in Long Valley, where the wind comes from out of Utah down through the Grand Canyon and then goes across Long Valley and then across Springerville into New Mexico. A lot of wind go through in there, so that by the time the clouds or the storms that are coming up across the Sitgraves National Forest south of me, it takes a lot of the moisture out of there, and by the time it breaks off of there and it hits this wind, it dissipates and it doesn't really hit me unless it's really thick.
All right. Well, you have a comment contest for us today, Mr. Vallejo?
Yes, I do. Adam, you're an activist. I'm an activist. Okay? We are active. We're out doing, Jim, he's producing this show. He's actively doing. We're actively out there promoting freedom and liberty and justice the American way, right over wrong, good over evil. We're doing, okay? All you people out there, the contest today is, what are you doing? What have you done? I mean, give us some activism reality, not just I typed on the computer or I talked to people. I got in my representative's face, so I got arrested for not being where I'm supposed to be protesting this. The biggest protester, the biggest activist today in our audience will win membership in the Producers Club. How's that?
Excellent. I love it. Well, Ed, I want to just put a finer point on something you raised there, sort of distinguishing keyboard warriors from real activists, right? And there are people who think of their activism as just being engaged in the conversation online. And that's bullshit, right? That's the slacktivism. Like, oh, I share stuff on my page. I spend an hour a day. I'm plugged in with the activist community. I'm an activist because I'm sharing stuff on. No, no, no. But I do want to point out, Ed, as a finer point of distinction here, that there are a lot of people online who, when they sit down at the computer for an hour, it's not just let me talk and ramble and be part of the conversation. They have like very directed, targeted communication and strategy to promote, to raise awareness, to steer the conversation, to build up their meme pages. Even like I run it, like I want to give credit, and maybe a meme page is like barely over the line of what I'm talking about. But if you're sharing information in a conscious way and you're building something, you're doing something online, and a lot of people are like almost there, right? There are a lot of people who are passionate about these ideas or causes or messages, and they're online, and they get an ego satisfaction out of talking about stuff. But they're missing just a little deliberate organization of their effort, of the time they spend engaged online, to change it from, sort of ego stroking, rambling, to make it actual activism.
There's a lot to say there.
You're still skeptical. No, please. This is an important topic. I know you have thoughts about this because you're like me. I think I'm barely old enough to say I can be kind of an old school activist. I mean, I was an activist barely, perhaps, in high school and college, compared to how I am now. But sort of before the internet was anywhere near what it is today. And I know you have a lot of experience working with the legendary Ernie Hancock in the Phoenix area and Freedom's Phoenix crew, where Ernie Hancock really brought sign bombing to a new level. I know you were a big part of that, and with my campaign back in 2010 in New Mexico, and so many others. And still, I think that's kind of an underutilized, media. So I think you're gonna. I know you have something to say about this.
Okay, well, on one hand, I have 35,000 followers on Twitter, and when I say the truth to those 35,000 people, that's one form of activism. On the other hand, when Ernie and I make a banner in his garage and we take it to the Libertarian National Convention in St. Louis, and in the middle of the night, I go climb up onto the railroad overcrossing and I hang that banner up on the chain link fence so 35,000 people an hour see it. Which one would you call the activist?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Very good point. Well, also, so that in terms of that, like broadcasting, even with this show, there is a preaching to the choir element. There's nothing wrong inherently with preaching to the choir if you're strengthening the choir, if you're empowering them to be better evangelists themselves, but also providing an opportunity for evangelism and to bring people in. And so I don't think of me being a part of the conversation on Twitter really as activism. It's just kind of again, it's an inbox. I check the inbox. I talk to people. We get stuff done, schedule interviews, things like that. Sometimes interesting things come out of the conversation, Twitter spats, we get to talk about on the show or that have some other relevance, but it's pretty rare.
Well, I haven't tweeted since July of 2019 when they changed their format, and I said, this is bullshit. I quit, and I left and didn't go back. And I looked not too long ago, and those 35,000 followers are still there. So, some people have never heard the choir, and they need to go get close enough to it so they can hear the beauty and the harmony, and they may want to join the choir and sing along.
There's that too. Very important. And I think it's just what you point out though is that difference is that when you hung the banner versus tweeting, you're reaching new people and inspiring new people and reaching beyond your echo chamber. And there's a lot of people who waste effort in that and assume that this is why I say running a meme page, maybe barely. I don't want to discount that because it's a lot of fun and it's a positive thing. I like making memes. I like sharing memes, browsing memes. But it's one of those things that, it's easy to just get sucked into where you're just having fun and making your own dank meme stash rather than weaponizing your memes effectively. All right, Ed. So the comment contest is what are you doing that is activism?
Yep, I'm good with that.
And I also want to point out one other thing is that I define activism not just as we've made this distinction here in sort of information, but anything that you're doing that's actively trying to make the world a better place, conscientiously engaging with anything other than I'm taking care of me and my family. The smallest form of activism would be like I gave $5 to the Red Cross. That's still activism. It's something outside of yourself because you want to see the world be a better place to live in, right? As opposed to just have your own nice little bubble. So a lot of conscientious entrepreneurship is very much both, business and activism. And I want to point out that I'm very inclusive in that. And I would say your activism could be, I wear goofy T-shirts that start conversations every day. I interact with hundreds of people on a daily basis. Well, this isn't me, by the way. But if you could say, if you interact with hundreds of people at point of retail or walking around, and you wear libertarian T-shirts, and you may or issue awareness, whatever T-shirts, and you make a point of interacting with people everywhere. I would say it's activism if you wear a free hugs T-shirt everywhere you go. And funny thing is, I wore a free hugs T-shirt, or Ron Paul. You could do a lot better than wearing a Ron Paul. I remember that. But no, T-shirts that deliberately engage with people. I wore my free hugs T-shirt sort of by accident. Not by, it was handy for construction work. And then I wore it into town to go to the post office. And this guy goes, "Oh, hey," and he comes in to hug me. It's this big dude, looking friendly. I'm like, "Do I know you?" And he's like, "Dude, wearing a T-shirt like that, you got to be ready, man." And I'm like, "Oh shit, yeah, I'm wearing the free hugs T-shirt." But if you're going around, I think of our old friend Michael Moresco, who was he did tons of activism projects, but what was his impact? He would just talk to every fucking person he interacted with. He would always be wearing something to talk about. He would always have something to give people, whether it was a flyer for an event or a goofy sticker or a Ron Paul palm card back in the day. But Liberty Rider, Michael Moresco, who biked across the country for Ron Paul. And it's like, did he have any bigger impact by riding across the country? No. It was sort of a, dumb stunt, but it was a way to engage with people.
When he went across the country on his bicycle and he hit the Arizona-New Mexico border, I met him at the border with this pistol on, and I rode a bicycle for 5 days in July across Arizona to the Arizona-Nevada border, where I escorted him across the state with Thomas Costanzo. He rode his bike, and JP drove the RV behind us, and we did that for 5 days.
I don't know if you noticed this.
What? He stopped at every sheriff's office in every county that he went through, gave them material and talked with them. He did it in every one. We stopped every time. That's activism, man. He stopped at every truck stop and gave stuff out to all of the truckers until there weren't nobody. He talked to everybody, and then we take off again.
And I gotta say, there's something really beautiful in the humility of that. And I try to make sure that in my activism, I have enough things that I'm doing that are just, you just do it because it's an opportunity, it's the
Real.
right thing, and
It's
it's a better
real.
way. I mean, what I actually focus on more though is making people laugh. Like that's
Yeah.
what and it's one of the things I really missed about masks is that casual interaction, just like at the grocery store. It's coming back, and it's like just a few weeks ago, I was at the Safeway in Chino Valley, and Joey, we were there last night. What was the mask ratio? It was all the employees masks, but not strict about it, right? Like half of them had their noses out. Like, I'm working here, I'm gonna breathe. And it was literally on their phone. And then customers about 50-50 maybe at this point.
Not even. I feel like
maybe
I saw
a
like
third
people in masks.
Was it the minority now?
It's very much the minority.
Anyway, so like, but I remember like at that Chino Valley Safeway, it's been one of my bellwether retail points during COVID for masks, and it's always been relatively like you go to Walmart just a bit further away in bigger towns, and I would be the only one, or me and the person I'm with, like out of hundreds of people, one or two other people not wearing a mask, tops. Safeway Chino Valley, I think the worst it got here, there was still like a quarter of the customers not wearing masks and not getting harassed. And yeah, now yesterday it was definitely the minority of customers wearing masks. But what I appreciate is just I was looking at avocados to make a salad like a few weeks ago, and back then it was maybe this was a few months ago, but we were in the minority and with not masks. Me and like three other ladies going up groping avocados, and they go, I go, oh hey, don't get those ones. Those ones have COVID on them, and just dumb jokes like that and a lot of my like just not trying to evangelize, but just being friendly and goofy and interacting and trying to make people laugh around you. Like, make the effort, engage, train yourself. It's kind of like working out in that sort of social skill, but just in casual interactions, tell goofy jokes, be friendly with people. It makes people's day. If they don't have that, enhances your life, everybody's life, to be, constantly looking for humor in the world. And it's something that it's funny when I'm not wearing a mask and other people are wearing masks, and then I'm the one telling jokes and you can tell they're laughing even when you can't see that they're laughing. But yeah, I mean,
yesterday,
most of my jokes end up making fun of government or dumb situations created by government or COVID anyway, and that's sort of my like low key continuous activism.
I was in Cholo yesterday, and every place we went, no one wore masks anywhere inside. It was wonderful. It really was.
Well, I should point out, we do have a guest today. Bart Womack of Eden Grow Systems is going to be joining us, and we do have a big COVID block. So let's get to that, and Bart will be joining us on the hour. Ed will be keeping your comments coming, so flowing on screen. So without further ado, I'm going to take some COVID vitamins, and then we're going to give out some misleading medical advice. All right, up first in our big pile of COVID headlines. Wow, it's so big I can't even see the start of it. All right, massive headlines across the board. Top three big block letter headlines on Drudge Report today, all about the Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccine being paused. And now this headline, I picked the Daily Mail one because there's a lot of like conflicting, spin on this, ways it's being presented, right? A lot of anti-vaxxers are kind of jumping on this going, see, the vaccine is unsafe. They had to pause it. And it's like, well, it's like one of several. And you take the devil's advocate, the vaccine advocate position against that, and you go, well, yeah, there's a bunch of vaccines, and they're being overly cautious because, look, 7 million people got the vaccine. Only 6 women got rare and severe. All right. So anyway, you say, well, it's still an overall. I'm playing the vaccine advocate here. That's clear. I don't want to misrepresent myself. But Daily Mail really trying to spin this. Thing is, either way you spin it, it's a failure on the overall anti-COVID government pharmaceutical effort. And I think it's fair to refer to it as that now. So Daily Mail's headline, Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccine to be paused after 6 women out of 7 million people developed rare and severe blood clots and 1 died. Now, it's one of the things that's interesting is to see the mainstream media playing down the severity of the side effects of the vaccine using the same kind of statistical presentation that they were just using to exaggerate the threat and significance of COVID itself. And so like right here, the percentage of people who have developed problems out of those who have had it is 0.00008%. And I would just remind you that 86.75309% of all statistics are bullshit made up to manipulate you. So on to the next story about COVID. COVID-19, this is medicalexpress.com. COVID-19, not the sole cause of excess U.S. deaths in 2020. Grim headline, but this is one I told you we were going to come back to very early on in this thing, that one of the ways we're going to have to analyze this is, how many excess deaths are there? Like to tease out how much is the cure worse than the disease, you're going to have to look at excess deaths and then say how many of those were, you're going to say how many deaths came down, because there was a reduction. Like, and in and of itself, it's a good thing that less Americans are dying in traffic accidents. If they're not dying because they're all staying at home to avoid a virus that doesn't exist, it exists. That's hyperbole, but if they're all staying at home to avoid corona, and then a few less of them die, but more of them die because of suicide, like we can isolate these things and say, okay, well, it's good that less people die in car accidents. It's bad that more people die from this. And so from the beginning, I've been saying that in order to fully appreciate and tell the story of COVID, you're going to have to go, really go, what is our baseline deaths? What would have our expectations without COVID been? What was the reduction in deaths because of the lockdowns, like less vehicle accidents? And then what were the increases in deaths, 1, due to COVID, and 2, due to government intervention? So how many people actually died from COVID? That's part of it. But then how many people died from suicide, from not having access to other medical care that, would have created what we saw in I think one of our COVID blocks last week or the week before was that people are dying, they said, from fear of COVID, and it's because they're afraid to go to hospitals, to medical facilities, to get treatment that they need to save their lives. And it's not necessarily, I'm going to die if I don't go to the hospital, so because I might get COVID, I'll stay home. But it's like, well, I've got this marginal thing and it would be better. I could go in, to prevent it from getting worse, but COVID, so I'll stay home, right? And then, oh shit, now this thing that was a small thing, now it's a big thing. It's those kinds of problems with delivery of medical care over this past year that are due to fear of COVID and not COVID itself. It's not COVID straining the system. That's another really big myth of this. You remember we're coming up on the we just, I guess about a month ago we passed the 1-year anniversary of 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Yeah, it wasn't really about that ever from the beginning, was it? We don't buy that, do we? No, of course not. So to the story, by the year 2017, the United States was already suffering more excess deaths and more life years lost each year than those associated with the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, according to research from demographers Samuel Preston of the University of Pennsylvania and Jana Weerboom of the Max Planck Institute for Demographic Research. So I just want to point out that even if you believe, even for people who believe in the whole COVID mythology, like for people who have bought just worst case scenario authorities, Dr. Fauci is God, from the very beginning, at some point, if those people have any integrity, they at least have to step back and go, ooh, well, okay, we put a lot of effort into this, and we're gonna play it up to justify it, so we don't feel bad about wearing masks excessively and so on. But and staying home and shutting down businesses and destroying people's lives in so many ways. But yeah, if we put that effort into COVID, let's put that effort into world hunger, because like poverty, because with those, I mean, imagine if we had a world hunger awareness day and everybody wore something to show that they cared. How much would that change the experience of life on Earth for humanity? And we've been wearing masks every day for a year instead. I'm talking about misplaced effort at worst. I'm sorry, at best, best case scenario in all of this, it is a ridiculously misplaced effort. So in 2017, the United States suffered an estimated 401,000 total excess deaths, those beyond the normal number of deaths expected to have occurred. The CDC reports 376,504 deaths related to COVID-19 in 2020. As Veerboom says, we do not want to diminish the tremendous losses due to COVID-19 in the U.S. and elsewhere. It's just a helpful tool to put the U.S. mortality disadvantage into perspective. It is not commonly recognized. This is a co-author, Preston, professor of Penn Department of Sociology. It is not commonly recognized how far we have fallen behind our European counterparts in mortality and survival. A notable U.S. disadvantage in 2000 has ballooned in the course of the 21st century. So excess deaths is here being counted in a different way than we think of, like as excess over the baseline expected 7,500 pre-COVID. So excess during COVID, different phenomena. We have a super chat from Celebrating Conservatism. Thank you for weighing in for $5. I try not to eat preservatives, chemicals, and GMO food, etc. Who in their right mind would put that same crap in their veins? Yes, yes. Yes, be all the more cautious. And again, I'll reiterate just my general position on the vaccines. And I mean, we don't know what they are until we've seen longitudinal or longer term studies, and there's no rush. Even if they're good, even if why being there are enough people out there. If you can isolate yourself, if I had the choice, if it really came down to Adam, you have to stay in Gardenia. Don't threaten me with a good time. Or you have to, get the vaccine in order to be allowed to travel. For the first, I'd say fuck you. I'm gonna wait. I'd still say like if I was comfortable in my home situation, I have to understand that yes, appreciate that some of y'all might be living in an apartment where it's like stay in my apartment. I don't know about that. But if I could get deliveries and food and Amazon, I'd be like, yeah, I'll stay here for a year rather than put my health at risk. And the one thing, and there might be others, and I'm not trying to fearmonger on the vaccines. If you have a particular reason to get one, like if you have a really good job and you've already, this is one more compromise you got to make to support your family in a way that you're all tied into the system and you got to get the jab to keep your job. At least do your research on the particular shot you're getting, but you know what? I can't hold that against you if you make that call for yourself. But otherwise, wait. Why not wait? So anyway, there are a lot more fun statistics in the story, and so in this, and I would again refer you to t.me/Adam versus the Man, our Telegram public channel if you want the notes. What was that? Was that something you wanted me to read? What's up, fellas? Adam, did you check out that video I sent you regarding the disabled people who were forcibly given Johnson & Johnson vaccine yesterday in LA? You know what? It's funny. I have it on my phone. I didn't get it on my laptop today. It was fucking disgusting. See total Nazi behavior by cops force vaccines onto unwilling disabled people. It freaks me out. Yeah, no, we've heard reports of some of that, and I've been waiting for someone more credible. And then I saw the video you sent me. And was just waiting to get some more on that. But it is disturbing how this is being forced on people now, and the sterility. That's the one sort of long-term threat that I think is a realistic possibility is that it might lower fertility rates or cause birth defects. And, that's something I'm very concerned about, looking to have kids. I'm not going to want, like, if I mean, it's rarely that you get to choose so deliberately, but, all things being equal, I would rather the mother of my children not be vaccinated. I would rather not be vaccinated myself, certainly before having kids. Maybe after having kids, if you already got your tubes tied or snipped, as the case may be, not a factor for you. Cool. Do the research, think for yourself. TheSun.com, so positive science that really does put a limit on how much again, technology keeps me optimistic as to the limitations of what exactly government can get away with. And even in this, I don't use the term medical tyranny because I think tyranny is sort of sensationalistic as a term, but it's fair to say that we have if we live in tyranny, well, we have a new flavor of tyranny, a new layer of tyranny with this dark cloud of COVID hanging over humanity. And technology provides a limit. Okay, just a second for the super chat. So this one is a revolutionary nasal spray kills off 99.99% of COVID virus, new research shows. Okay, so to the super chat, Chris Bradway's in for $5. So many people think this vaccine is being forced on people because it's for the common good. Hitler started with the disabled people too. I saw this on Twitter. This is one of the fun things that comes out of Twitter, right? It was the Kentucky Libertarian Party that made a post making some vague comparison, but an appropriate one, of the vaccine passports to the Stars of David, right? Was that it, Joey?
Yeah.
And
everybody got in trouble.
Well, and my only critique of it is that it's a bit sensationalistic, and in that sense, maybe slightly intellectually disingenuous. It's not wrong. It's not offensive. It's not statist. It's not unethical. It's not defamatory. Like none of those things. I'm saying like style points. I agree. I wouldn't say it that way. That's it. And now we see protests in Israel where they're comparing the vaccine passports. A big sign. I should have had this graphic pulled up. Maybe it's in the Producers Club. But a picture of a vaccine or the virus passport, and then it has an arrow going to the Star of David, and then an arrow going to what was the last one? Nazis, concentration camp, something like that. All right, we have a comment on the contest here. Vividness/Vivi's mess. My activism is that I have not worn a muzzle or complied with any of the other stupid self-harming rituals. Yeah, that's what they are. It has been 10 months now, successfully conditioned people to accept that I don't partake. Well, that's great, and you're very lucky to have been able to consistently do that. I've run into a few places that I mean, my position is, unless it's a personal request by an individual and I am choosing to be within 6 feet of them, I won't wear it. Or if it's someone like I really have to do business with, or it's to make their job. Like yesterday, Joey, I should have told you this at the dispensary. So no request for a mask. I had it in my pocket knowing that, and this is the thing, like, I really want to buy weed, and if that's the only way to buy it, like, yeah, I'll wear a mask. I'll put it on minimally to buy what. And the other thing is, I also respect in a unique way the circumstances of dispensaries being under increased scrutiny. If you're going to be cool about it, I'm going to be cool about it. If someone politely, kindly says, hey man, can you please wear a mask? Otherwise, it's going to make my job a pain in the ass. Of course, yeah, fuck yeah. And then I'll wear it with my nose out and no one's going to say shit, right? But and that's what I did this, so I walked in, security didn't say anything, took my ID to put it in the queue, didn't say anything. As I'm going into the dispensary, the bud tender who calls you in one at a time said, hey man, do you have a mask? And you wear it for him? I'm like, well, if it makes your job. And I think he had his nose out. And I was like, I'll just throw it over my chin just to make your job. And he was like, cool. So we went in, we did it, and left, and that was it. But yeah, if you want to play that, you can push it. I mean, I've never. There was one time at a dispensary I wanted to have the conversation because they were being dicks about it, but Is a place in Flagstaff. I'm not going to call him out because it was really just one employee, but I left him a bad review on Google Maps.
One employee.
Yeah. Well, no, it's still their responsibility as a business for setting COVID enforcement standards. And just, hey, this dispensary in Flagstaff, dick. That one I should say SWC. I'll give them a shout out. Keep it positive. SWC dispensary in Prescott, and look. I have one of their 8th containers here. Yeah, look. Oh yeah, see, this is one that we got for Joey yesterday. Yeah, look at that.
It's huge.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, decent deals. Though prices are going up there as they are throughout Arizona. But SWC dispensary in Prescott, never had a bad experience there. I'll say also Nirvana in Prescott is the other close one. We had a dispensary when it was medical only in Chino, and they actually got their license bought out or something. I liked supporting them even when their prices were a little higher to be buying more local. I think, I just realized and you know what? I'm kind of okay with this now. One of the reasons the prices were higher in Chino is that Chino Valley City has a 10% across the board sales tax.
Out. Not for this country.
So that they took their license to a friendlier civil environment for taxes. That's like I'm kind of all right. I mean, but then I go, why the fuck do you need a license to sell cannabis in the first place? All right, Laser 222. Only place I've worn a mask is at my hemorrhoid doctor because I had to get that shit taken care of. Laughing my ass off. Nowhere else has said anything to me. I'm in North Carolina. We had a so-called mask mandate for a year. Oh, it's interesting. Yeah, so North Carolina, I've heard this. Well, North Carolina, South Carolina, some differences across the lines. Vividness. I'm also the only one without a muzzle on the train and buses. I don't have a TV or any programming outlets and no Wi-Fi, so I have no fear and no illnesses. Yeah, no shit. Hey, healthier living, right? Yeah, we don't have TV. I don't watch TV here. And just saying, there's something about, and I hate to sidebar on this, but we haven't talked about it in a while, and I'll connect it to conscious consumer of information attitude. But there's something about the TV that makes you a passive consumer of information, and you can do this with the internet, or you can have TV without this if you like TiVo and watch without commercials. But if you watch TV as I'm going to watch TV, and I'm going to sit on the couch and turn it on, and what the TV people tell me to put in my face, I'm gonna put in my face and in my brain, and I'm gonna watch commercials and poison yourself, like really in a really destructive way, as opposed to, and you could do that on the internet, right? You go to CNN.com and just let their video feed loop on your internet capable monitor, and it's just as fucking bad, right? So it's not necessarily TV versus the internet, but there is something inherent about TV and how it was done I can say how TV was watched historically back in the day, even before my time, where you just sit down and you let the stream hit you and you watch ads and it fucking poisons your brain constantly, versus consciously going, I'm going to watch this, whether it's good or not, just the thing saying I'm going to consume this, as opposed to, all right, TV, feed me, big difference. But I was going somewhere else with the thing about masks, wasn't I? Laser 222, I wasn't expecting been a big fan for over 10 years, man. Keep up the awesome work. Thank you, Laser 222. All right, so back to the science. Revolutionary nasal spray kills off 99.99% of COVID virus. New research shows a COVID-busting nasal spray has been proven to kill 99.99% of the virus. It could prevent the transmission. For those infected, it could shorten the duration of the illness, reduce severity of symptoms. So, again, like, okay, so how can you justify restrictions when we have possibly a cure that drops the mortality rate down by 90+%? Meanwhile, what's the government up to? Not curing the disease, detecting it. Pentagon creates a microchip that will detect COVID-19 under your skin. Yeah. Your tax dollars at work. This is, of course, from RT.com, my former employer, the Russians. Medical researchers working for the Pentagon have claimed to have created a microchip that can identify viruses like COVID-19 if they are under your skin. Yeah. The microchip acts like a check engine light for people, but does not track their every movement, which has been central to online conspiracy theories about COVID-19 vaccinations. Yeah, that's really what we're worried about. Okay. Yeah. All right. NewYorkPost.com or NYPost.com Times Square crowds show New York City returning to life. Here's something we never expected to cheer. The Mickey Mice are back in Times Square along with the Batman and other buskers, including the Accept No Substitutes Naked Cowboy. It's a joy because it means, who I've interviewed, by the way. It's a joy because it means the crossroads of the world has returned to life. Similarly, next story, bringing it home, Arizona is already in a new normal, right? Arizona, I don't know. Yeah, still got to stop doing masks some places, but I think there's nothing that's shut down anymore in Arizona, despite we were such a hotbed, a hotspot just a few months ago. TheHill.com, Michigan's spike highlights fatigue over restrictions. And that's a very stated. I mean, I feel like I need to rephrase this from the view of the people as opposed to from the view of the man. Michigan spike highlights fatigue over restrictions. Michigan government fabricates rise in cases because people are no longer buying into the mythology and submitting to shutdowns and other restrictions in Michigan. Is that you see the difference in how that headline could have been written? All eyes are on Michigan as the state endures a surge of COVID-19 cases, underscoring how fatigue with coronavirus restrictions. It's fatigue with coronavirus restrictions, aka we're sick of your shit. And political divisions have disrupted the response to the pandemic across the country. More than a year after the start of the pandemic, Michigan has evolved into a hotspot for COVID-19, recording a 7-day average of 7,377 new cases. 3,570 hospitalizations in the past week, according to the New York Times. The state is also home to 9 of the top 10 cities with the highest rate of cases per 100,000 people over the last 2 weeks. Amid the new surge, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer has avoided instituting new lockdowns after receiving backlash from Republicans and facing an alleged kidnapping plot due to her coronavirus restrictions last year. She and other state politicians have instead asked the Biden administration to send more vaccine doses to the state. Yeah, all right. AP, India reels amid virus surge affecting world vaccine supply. The Indian city of Pune, or Pune, is running, it's Pune. I guess I was just trying to avoid saying Pune, but I'm thinking in Indian pronunciation, it must be Pune, because they wouldn't name a city Pune because they know that Americans will giggle when they hear that there's a city in India named Pune. The Indian city of Pune they don't give a fuck. The Indian city of Pune is running out of ventilators as gasping coronavirus patients crowd its hospitals. Social media is full of people searching for beds, while relatives throng pharmacies looking for antiviral medicines that hospitals ran out of long ago. The surge, which can be seen across India, is particularly alarming because the country is a major vaccine producer and a critical supplier to the UN-backed COVAX initiative. That program aims to bring shots to some of the world's poorest countries. I need to really wrap this up here because I believe, I'm sorry, our guests should be backstage here. They are. All right, so we're going to wrap up our COVID block quickly, or France24.com. WHO, I was watching the show clock. We started a few minutes late today. WHO, I'm pointing at the show clock. It says, is this on the screen? Live 59:22, or is that's just for people watching backstage and StreamYard? World Health Organization, that would be anybody in the Producers Club who wants to join us in our virtual backstage. I should have just said virtual backstage, not air quotes. Backstage or virtual backstage. World Health Organization urges halt to sale of live wild mammals in food markets today. Next week, they urge the increase in the sale of live wild mammals in food markets. Does the World Health Organization have any credibility anymore? People, no, they seem to have shot themselves in the foot with the back and forth. And remember, this YouTube channel got censored because we made a recommendation for a change in policy that contradicted the World Health Organization. And then they changed their mind and came in line with what we had said a week later. So just a little friendly reminder. From Cron.com, this is via Cron, Washington Post. Texas governor says state is very close to herd immunity. The data tells a different story. Yeah, if you believe the data, or if you believe the politicians behind the data, yeah, either way, you're being screwed. Positive news coming out of this ABC13.com. Domino's Pizza is now using a robot to deliver your pizza. Welcome to the future, motherfuckers. Yeah, we're there. Then it's going to put a lot of poor pizza boys out of a job. That's unfortunate, but so did the internal combustion engine, and so on. Humanity progresses. We are about to enter an age of drone delivery, and this is a major episode in human history. The whole COVID season, the first COVID season. Remember that first COVID season of 2020, and things were so bad. Yeah, but there's the pizza delivery drones. We also have a story. I guess we'll get to this later in the grab bag. Uber getting into cannabis delivery, but soon it's about time for smoke weed every day. But almost. We have to cover some more COVID stories to complete this block. Give me just a minute. So many great comments interrupting. But all right, the wrap has this headline: YouTube urges Ron DeSantis video over claims children don't need to wear masks. And I wonder, this gives me some encouragement. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice. I'm optimistic today, not just with the technology, but that there's a certain element of maybe a critical mass we've gotten to where the snake is eating its own tail. And finally, we got a couple more stories. Denver's Bar Max requires proof of COVID vaccination for indoor service. Interesting controversy there. From the Associated Press poll, 15% of Americans worse off a year into pandemic. I'm surprised it's that low. I guess for those who haven't committed suicide out of desperation. But to the federal government, Wall Street Journal, U.S. budget deficit widened to a record 1.7 trillion for 6 months as stimulus checks fueled spending. Gap broadened to $660 billion in March alone as spending surged amid payouts. So there is an escalation here, and it is something we will be analyzing over the coming months as to the long-term implications of that. Bad news here. Remember Trump saying restaurants are going to close and come back with new ownership. We saw in Kentucky some weird food shortages. We've seen some other rumors. Someone in the Producers Club shared a picture of, was it Chester's Chicken or something, where they had to put chicken wings due to COVID and other supply chain issues. But Deadline has this ArcLight Cinemas and Pacific Theaters won't be reopening. Parent company Decurion hands keys back to landlords. Yeah, theaters, not so much a thing as they used to be. Blow to Hollywood. I say that's a good thing for the overall consumption of information and conscientious entertainment. CNBC, and this is our last one because this is part of the COVID story. Consumer prices rise more than expected, pushed by a 9.1% jump in gasoline. That's right, you put all that money in people's hands in this manipulated economy for gas prices and the prices of plastic cheap shit from China going up, consumer prices across the board going up. People have just enough money to catch up on bills, to pay their phone bills, to pay rent, if they're catching up on that at all, if that's still an issue. No, these COVID relief bills aren't jumpstarting the economy. It's this funny thing where the government borrows $20,000 in your name, gets you to accept it by giving you $1,400 back, which is still a lot better than a sharp stick in the eye. But what's this whole thing engineered? Just to send that money right back to the man, and that's something that no amount of COVID vitamins can deal with, but they can make you feel better about it. And that's our misleading medical advice for the day. All right, Bart, I am very sorry to keep you waiting. Thank you so much for hanging with us. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today is from Eden Grow Systems. That's EdenGrowSystems.com. Bart Womack, one of the pioneers of this technology, joins us now to talk about Feeding the Future, a farming technology company focused on near closed system ecological design, dedicated to finding and implementing the newest farming technologies and designs with the end goal of giving families and communities the ability to be self-sufficient in their food and energy production. I don't think I have to tell you that this kind of entrepreneurship is activism, and what this means for being able to liberate yourself from dependence on systems that feed the man. We build next generation modular automated farms and associated products. So I got to stop reading, but this is too exciting. One more sentence. Our first consumer product is a turnkey food production system that can function in any environment and be delivered anywhere in the world. Revolutionary implementation of technology that is just now realizing its potential. Bart, welcome to Adam versus the Man.
Adam, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Well, I really appreciate it. And I don't know where you want to start with this. I mean, there's so many different ways we go. I want you to explain your products, your motivation.
For sure, for sure.
If you want to introduce yourself first and how you got into this, if that's a good place to start.
Sure. Well, my name's Bart Womack. I'm the founder of Eden Grow Systems and the inventor of one of its first products, the Life Pod. The journey really started for me in 2012. I was a very successful nightclub owner and DJ, and I had been doing marketing and digital communications and communications campaigns for a long time. But I was really unsatisfied because I saw so much of the culture that I was a part of was seeking to escape society and find some modicum of freedom in expressing themselves because they were so suppressed in society. And my background in school and communications, I had studied, a lot of digital communications, but also communication theory and how people could be manipulated by different types of modalities of communication and systems of communication. So, in 2012, I really saw these trends. I'd always been really concerned with freedom and free expression, but I was really looking to the future, and I was really unsatisfied with being in entertainment. I wanted to do something more profound. So I was kind of soul searching, and I was doing some trends research for a couple of different companies and family offices. And I kept coming across, that food was going to be one of the most disruptive technology sectors in the future. And the more I kept digging into the whys behind that, I started reading trends reports by Chase Manhattan, going all the way back to Club of Rome computer analysis from the 70s, talking about how civilization was going to collapse by 2050 because of overpopulation and still trying to use the same technological system for growing food that we had been. So I started getting all these data points and I started putting it all together. I was reading British Ministry of Defense reports projecting into 2017, and this was back in like 2007. And what I saw was that we were reaching this point in history where technological innovation was going to continue to move on this exponential arc. But because of that, and also within the greater cycles of history, from reading books like The Fourth Turning, you could start to correlate all this data and see that the future was going to become increasingly chaotic, and that the trends of history showed that there would only ever be one reaction by the powerful. There would only ever be one solution offered by the systems that we had built up over the last 100 and 1,000 years to handle our economy, which would be, give us your power. Let us take control, and we will give you everything, but you will have to be totally in our control. And when I saw this trend and it all came together and I saw the picture, I was like, you know what? The themes don't matter. The personalities don't matter. There's just a point in history we're at right now and we're accelerating towards. And you combine this technological curve with it. I started reading about, NASA reports on how, complex systems theory, that the more complex a system became, the more susceptible it became to disruption.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking at all these data points coming together, and I was like, there's no way that collective civilization as we know it is going to be able to pass through this period. And I was looking for solutions. I was trying to understand, you know, how do you resist this system when any active resistance against it is reflected back against you as force? So I said, you know, the only solution is we have to develop parallel systems. And these parallel systems, if they're good systems, will survive the coming chaos and will be the net and the reboot of civilization on the other side of that chaos. And so then I started asking myself the question, okay, if you're going to be like the Pilgrims and you're just going to try and create a parallel system away from the system that you've been a part of, you have to go off, you have to go be a part. And then I asked myself, well, where does that begin? And it begins with food, water, and power. All society begins with food, water, and power. All freedom begins with food, water, and power.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that was when, you know, I understood that the mandate of the company was to create a homesteading modular system that would require the least amount of human and electrical energy. Now, this is probably about this time as 2015, 2016, and I'm here in Houston, Texas. So I get together with some buddies of mine that had an HVAC company that I'd been friends with since I was 15, and they had a lot of the same views as I did. And I said, look, we have to start creating this modular farm, not just for our families, but we have to productize it. We have to put it out into the world, because the truth is, if we just do this for ourselves, we're going to end up on a hilltop in some kind of Mad Max zombie situation where we're trying to defend ourselves from the hordes. So the only solution is we have to implement these systems, and then we have to deploy them across society as far as possible, so that that net, that protective net, can spread and help society rebound from the storm that it's getting ready to move into. So then we found the company. Let me just find out. Let me finish the last point. So we found the company in 2017, and some friends of mine that had helped me do other business ventures had gotten heavily involved in SpaceX. And when we formed the board, they were part of our business, our finance development. And they came to me and they were like, you know, you really need to get involved in the space aspects of this, because what you're trying to do has obvious implications for that. So I get booked at this conference out in LA, and I'm on a panel called Farmers in Space. And now this is the first time I've done any public speaking in like 10 years, you know, since college. I'd been doing entertainment. So the guy that gets up in front of me gives my entire speech. He goes point for point. I mean, point for point. And I'm like, oh my God. So I have to come up with an entirely new speech on the fly while I'm sitting there like freaking out, you know, feeling like a freshman in high school. So I get up and I give the speech, but I go find that guy in the bar afterwards. And this is how I end up meeting our CTO, Jeff Raymond, who has his YouTube channel, The Real Martian, who he was a Boeing engineer that was building Predator drones. And he didn't like what he was doing. And he's a Christian man, and he wanted to have a positive impact on society. And so he and I start talking, and we realize, even though I had oil and gas engineers and HVAC system designers, which there was a lot of similarity, you know, but he had that engineering level that we truly needed. And we both realized we were asking the exact same question, because whether you're on Mars or out in the desert trying to homestead or in a downtown, it all comes down to the same question if you're trying to make a survival system, which is how do you last the longest amount of time on your own and use the least amount of human and electrical energy to do it? There you go.
Yeah, no, that's no, and I mean, what you said was the manifesto that's in my head, unspoken, every time I say, you know, food independence is essential for freedom. And it's very strange to think that we've gone through this period of human history where we've given that up and have to reclaim it. Where this in the state of nature, obviously, and prior to industrialization, centralization of food production, distribution, and processing, most humans were directly involved in the creation of their own food or very close to it. and we are completely separated, and yet never before have we had the technology that we have today to make it easy and still have the nutritional potential of getting
Totally.
food from all over the world, moved around to meet our needs. So this is I want to get into like the pods and because it's
Definitely.
something I have fantasized about. And I've actually said that. I don't know if you know this, but I think on my show going back to 2013 when we had a 3D printer, we're talking about 3D
This is
printing
all
food.
3D printed. This is all 3D printed.
Yes.
All of it.
So no, we're going to get to that. Don't worry. We're going to get into the cutting edge technology and what we can do with it here in Gardenia and in our homestead as well. But I want you to take a minute to talk about the story of the company.
Sure.
And you just started touching on that, but really, what you started with, and are you on the rural Washington R&D property?
Yeah, no, I'm down in Houston. Jeff is the
Okay.
one that's up there. He's on top of the mountain, and he's the ultimate homesteader, dude. He's living the dream. Like I want to be up there. I want to be doing what he's doing, but I mean,
No,
he
no,
is one.
the
And
dream
that's
is here. No, Bart. The dream is here in the mountains of Arizona, where we don't have that nonsense bullshit humidity
oh
that you have to
yeah.
and mosquitoes that you have to deal with in Houston, or this silly shit. And this is exciting that you're testing these systems where you have temperatures ranging from minus 15 to 110 degrees Fahrenheit, winds from 0 to 70, daylight hours ranging from 8 to 16, putting as the website says, putting our systems through the ringer. But maybe if you could explain like how that has all fit into the development of the company and your story, and when all this started. Because my first fantasy about, like in 2013, I was saying they're going to have eventually, I said in 2013, we have the technology. It's just a matter of entrepreneurship and implementing it, that you're going to have a box that comes on a truck that you drop off in your backyard, that you hook up electricity and water to, and it makes fresh food, whatever you want. How, like, one way or another, we're going to have that. And I've been waiting for this and to see the pictures of the pods. Anyway, but first, the story of the company, if you would, please.
Well, first off, I do have to correct you. Texas is the greatest state that's ever existed or ever will exist. So I'm sorry about. I'm sorry
I
about
mess
that.
with Texas. I will continue to mess with Texas.
But the story of the company, I mean, it really is. From the beginning, we were looking at how do you build the best survival system. I mean, it's exactly what you're talking about. And what it was is. I was approaching it from the homesteading standpoint. Jeff was approaching it from the space standpoint. But, the further we've gone along, the more I've adopted really the space aspect of it in understanding that it's a life support system. And, you touched on something about how it's only been in the last 100 years. The idea of the homestead and your family and you being able to take care of yourself, is one of the oldest experiences in the human experience.
We used to just call that life.
Exactly. So, I don't want to go off onto something else. I want to stay focused on your question. I mean, that really is the story. It's me and Jeff's story. It's two men that separately across the country were determined to create a system that could maximize their own freedom, but understood that for that to really happen, that a cultural movement had to be created around the idea of self-sufficiency. And the data is there that Americans are waking up to that. With every new X event that occurs, there'll be an acceleration in that awakening.
Well,
So,
I want, Bart, if I might stop you for just a second, because I want to just home in on one of those ideas. You say there has to be a culture. In a sense, yes, if it results in the culture, but it's more that there has to be a market. And I would say that if there is a culture that develops, it will be based on shifts in the market, based on inevitable changes in technology. And it doesn't even have to be cultural. It can be simple economic advantage. Whereas, hey, you could buy this food box that we drop off a truck for $3,000 and never have to go to the grocery store ever again. or keep going to the grocery store. And it's just like, no, we have the technology now. It pays for itself in a year. Invest in it, just do it, right? I mean, can't it be?
No, I mean, and that's true, and that was part of the idea behind the technology was, to do this kind of technology and make it work. I mean, you got to have a lot of different disciplines come together for it all to happen, and it takes a lot. I mean, it really can't be done by one person, and I mean, unless it's just their absolute life that's all they're doing all the time, and they have unlimited resources and time and money. Okay. So when I first got into this and we were analyzing these kind of systems, I said, okay, there's only this much of the population that will actually go and do all of this work. But I said, if we can systematize this, if we can automate it, if we can take all of the learning and effort out of it to where it's just a turnkey thing that shows up and it has an app that's hooked up to it, that the app can either connect to the cloud or be independent, but it just has these time frames that you enter in what you're trying to do, and it walks you through it as you're trying to do it. I said, if we can get to that point that this is just an appliance that's in people's homes, that it's just, they know it's spitting out so much stuff, and all they have to do is go and cut it off, and eventually the robots are going to get introduced. You're not going to even have to cut it off anymore.
Yeah, right. That's
I'm not kidding. We have the NASA tech. We have the NASA robots working with us.
There's a YouTube video of a guy who's already hooked up a 3D printer like control X and Y and Z axis to water and tend a garden, including it has a little. It's very primitive.
I'm forgetting the name of it, but I've seen exactly. Yeah.
But he has different tools that he attaches to it. One is it kills weeds better than anything else because it has a little triangular blade. And it pushes them below the surface and chops the roots from the stem. And it's like, it pushes it back into the soil.
You can train it with AI. You can train it with AI that it'll detect problems before you even detect the problems. You can train it with AI to where in the first 3 weeks of its growth, the AI has already calculated out how big the plant's going to get. And is it better just to pull that one and start over again so you just even get a healthier plant? So I mean,
sort of being able to like walk up to the box and say, "Hey, box, I want 3 radishes, an avocado, and some romaine for my lettuce tonight or for my salad tonight," and it spits it out into a box like a dispenser. For now, we can have AI manage the system, manage the watering, manage the lights, and all you have to do as a person is go in and move grow media, maybe seeds or seedling, and eat. You can go and graze.
Yeah, we'll even be at the point that we'll offer you the seed cups that if you don't want to do the incubation, you can order from us and it'll just ship in. And every time when it's time for you to be ordering, the computer will just tell you, hey, it's time to get more seeds if you want to stay on your schedule. And, you can go buy them from wherever. And eventually we want to harvest the seeds out of the system too, so you're not even having to order seeds.
Yes.
The goal is always to get to an end system that eventually has 3D printers integrated into it that's printing out your replacement parts, and it's monitoring itself so it even knows what the life of the different parts are. So no, it's exactly that. It gets insane. We've talked to companies that have this cellulose technology that you can grow plants and then 3D print with the plants. So eventually you could have a farm that's even producing the material, replicating and growing the farm. So, I mean, the limits, what you were saying earlier, the technology's there. As it becomes more and more feasible through cost for us to supply it to the public, then you're right. That is where the culture meets the road, as it were, is, making it an affordable solution so that people actually want to use it. And I'm happy to say, mathematically, our towers they do pay themselves off after 3 years.
Already we're at that point, and that's a major turning point in this. But you suggested another fantasy of mine in the tech, in that one of the ways we're going to innovate our way out of most of these current limitations and challenges is even dealing with air pollution. It's chemicals in the air that can be sucked out of the air and turned into plastics that can be 3D printed. Mm-hmm. Imagine that machine combined with a 3D printer, combined with the box that grows, and it's a food, and then like you drop this on anyway, that you see where this could go. But let's bring it back, because this is something specifically immediately applicable that I have not only fantasized about but made plans for here in my own way. Like, just cannabis for a second. We do talk about pot occasionally on this show. With it growing it off grid or for personal use, it's very inefficient compared to, go to a dispensary. They're growing in systems like this one that are right now only practical at a bigger scale. But you've made it practical at a family level scale or an independent homestead
Exactly.
scale. And
Yeah.
that's a critical turning point. So I've been thinking about, like, if I was going to go grow cannabis, deep water culture, thermal mass or semi-thermal mass, hoop house, greenhouse where I can control the light, add some supplemental light. But and in this climate, limited rain, intense sun, a little bit of wind, and significant winters, being able to grow in a greenhouse. I'm exploring all this, and you're just saying, like, no, we've already got the in the box kit. And I want to ask first, is it your Genesis Mobile Life Pod that's your flagship product?
So that's the master level product, and that's the one that's in the back that can come in the Life Pod comes in an 18-wheeler. The hab is a fixed structure. They both have the exact same elements, other than that one can move and the other one is fixed. So the Life Pod, it's designed to be mobile, and yes, you could go drop it in the desert, and within 6 weeks it's producing all of its own food, water, and power that a family of 4 needs to survive. You can actually seal people inside of it, and it produces enough oxygen for them to breathe.
Wow.
So, and the way that works is that system, it has 16 of the towers that are here behind me in it. It's producing prawn, it's producing fish through aquaponics, it's producing heavy root vegetables and fruiting vegetables using aeroponics, which we're the only commercial modular system that even exists that can do that. Because we're the only ones that are using that technology.
All right, well, okay, so then before you get into the mechanics of how you're using these different grow methodologies, can you compare and contrast for me? And I do want to challenge you a little bit on aquaponics, because I've got a friend who got heavy into it and was successful in teaching other people, and decided that it wasn't the most efficient, that it was too delicate. Now, if you're at the next level of automated monitoring systems, maybe you take that out of it. But you are really looking hard nosed for efficiency in a self-contained system like this. And I expect you're going to touch on different types of plants, different systems, maximum efficiency. But there's still some systems that you would say not even close on efficiency, right? Are you growing in dirt at all? Is it all aquaponics, hydroponics, aeroponics, deep water culture, anything of that nature? First conceptually, addressing these different grow modalities, how do these fit into a hyper efficiency design system?
Okay, so a couple of points. One is that ultimately I believe that you're going to have to go with aquaponics, because you're not going to be able to count on ordering fertilizer and having fertilizer or liquid fertilizer solution delivered to you. And so a natural system that's been systematized, in my opinion, is ultimately the only one that can truly be off grid, that can, and there's even levels of that are going to happen to make that happen, that I don't want to get lost into yet. So, but that first question, in my opinion, for you to truly have an off-grid system, you're going to have to use aquaponics, because you're going to have to be using the fish, as the medium of creating a lot of the nutrient, and you're still going to have to be adding nutrient on top of that, because the heavy fruit-bearing plants. That's why you don't see people using aquaponics to do what we're doing. And we're not using aquaponics right now. So here's how it works. The tower behind me has a reservoir. That reservoir can actually feed 16 other towers. All right. So you use the one reservoir with hydroponic solution to be a hydroponic solution being delivered through an aeroponic medium. Delivering it through the aeroponic medium allows you to grow heavy root vegetables and more efficiently grow the fruit-bearing vegetable plants. All right. The other towers that you would do on top of that, you would just keep their water systems insulated into themselves. And in those towers, you would do the fish production and the prawn production. Because the problem is with aquaponics is there's only a small profile of fish that meet another small profile of plants, that they overlap in temperature range and different nutrients that they need to get maximum results. So people always end up abandoning aquaponics, you know, because it's simpler and it's easier just to go over here and focus on the plant production. Even if they're doing aquaponics, they'll still just use the fish as a machine, as a delivery vector, and not try to maximize the growth of the fish, because the growth of the plants, you get more of a return on the energy and resources spent on plants versus the fish. But if you separate them and put them into two different things, even though they're all part of the same system, now you can maximize the fish production, and now you can maximize the vegetable production. But also, again, you want to be doing that and developing that, because long term, just what's going to happen is the major infrastructure that supplies all of the nutrient solution to you, in my opinion, is going to be cut off or redirected to, you know, Bezos and Gates and the major institutional players. Because as we continue to have weather X events, you know, that are, in my opinion, being caused by the grand solar minimum and its acceleration of our acceleration into it, as you have those events, those traditional methods of transportation of resources are going to be redirected and cut off into those major institutions, and as a way of also throttling the competition of the small farmer.
Yeah. So I want to get back to this aquaponics and the sort of nutrients in challenge, and I'm sure I want to connect it to the problem of growing in outer space, right? Because what you're talking about is a limited biomass availability, and like even with your aquaponics, you still got to bring in fish food from somewhere if you're bringing that into the system. And one of the great inefficiencies in our current system that is subsidized by government and corporate structures that give them an advantage over kind of localized systems is that you're going to the grocery store and you're getting biomass and you're putting your body and you're shitting it out, and it goes through sewage processing and then out mass produced that way. But what we're looking at here, Bart and I, in addressing this efficiency challenge, is how you bring that biomass in to grow your own plants. And it can come from, like, we don't have to move biomass all around in order to achieve the same effect. And if you're thinking about a self-contained unit in space, or like a biodome, you know, you should be able to input nothing but energy and keep things moving. Keep turning that biomass from sunlight into plant matter. Use that sunlight to convert dirt and water into plant matter, and then the humans take that plant matter or whatever you're processing doing. It turns into humans, turns into poop, turns into urine, turns back into soil, turns back. You can do like the Martian, right? You know,
no, exactly. No. You're nailing it. You're nailing it, and you've found the end of the equation, which is it's all about, which is the ultimate question,
move the biomass as efficiently as possible locally from waste into food without having to move it around. So you still have to bring in fish food, or you're processing.
So here's how you do it. Here's how,
or dirt, or bringing something else in, right?
Yeah. So here's how you do it. It's the insects. God and nature already created the perfect system for harvesting everything that you want out of the environment. Now, this is an idea that I've been developing for quite some time and watching through other industry elements, you know, so there's a project actually I got exposed to this last weekend that I'm totally, as things get worse here, it's going to be 100% applied here. It's in Nairobi and different countries. What they've done is they've gone in and they put in these outhouses in the poor neighborhoods. And it's a subscription agreement that the lady of the neighborhood in these poor neighborhoods, they like 400 of them, will manage the outhouse and charge the neighborhood. And it's a little business for them to go use the toilet. It's a clean toilet. It's always clean.
Right.
Every month or every week, whenever it fills up, trucks come and pull all that poop out of those toilets, and they go and they put them in fields. And then they come and they bring in soldier flies. Now, soldier flies' mouths are too small to bite humans, so they can't transmit disease to humans.
Okay.
And within about 7 weeks, they'll have a 7-acre field just filled with poop, and about 80% of it, and within 7 weeks, is soldier fly larvae. Now, those soldier flies have digested all of the human poop and also exhibit this thing in nature called gut loading, that they actually become nutrient sinks themselves and are perfectly passed back up the food chain. Nature has literally designed them to do this, to recapture the nutrients. So you take the larvae, you steam dry them, you clean them, then you dry them out, and there is your chicken feed. There is your rabbit feed. So that's one aspect of it, of recapturing all those nutrients that the humans are just passing through their body. But the other aspect of it is there's other profiles of the insects in nature that accumulate different profiles of heavy elements, different elements in nature. So
can we just go to eat bugs already? Like, can we skip this? Can I just get like a solar powered light that attracts bugs at night and then every morning spits out hamburger patties?
Yeah. So no, screw that. And Bill Gates can fly off a cliff. No. What we're going to do is we're going to take the bugs that are going to be super nutrient value and super, healthy, and feed them to our chickens, feed them to our fish, and then they will serve as a natural.
And you get fish meat and fish poop.
Exactly. And they then pass their nutrient through the water, through the aquaponics, back into the system. So, no, there are ways, and nature has shown us the way, and you're exactly correct that the nutrients is where it all comes down to. So, I mean, it's also, that's why we use a biodigester in our system. So all of the plant matter that doesn't get eaten when the plant dies. I mean, think about when you harvest plants, like you can take the fruit, most of the time, a lot of the rest of the plants just thrown away. But if you put that in a biodigester, you can turn that into biodigestate that then is a fertilizer that can be reintroduced and capture all those nutrients back into the system.
Right, Bart, there's another element of this I want to point out that's just being more conscious of harvesting and managing biomass and energy overall. That doesn't, one of the comments earlier was something about getting out of the mentality of scarcity. And at first I thought they were sort of referring to well, how do we produce it from the minimum? And it's like, well, really, at some point, the technology gets us to a superfluous amount of energy. Solar tech, wind tech is already there. Like, when it comes to how much energy do we need to turn shit into food and food into blah, 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 like, no problem. When it comes to even gathering the biomass, that, if you have integrated systems and you're using waste and to pulling nutrients out of soil in some combination, even then, like you're using insects as part of your chain. It's almost, there's no scarcity. It's abundance. It's not, I go to the grocery store, I got to watch my budget. No, it's you hook up these big inputs and then you end up with an abundance of whatever it is you're able to create. And I want to bring in one other element to this. I live in a forest. Some people call this a desert because it's Arizona, and fuck them. We get 12.5 inches of rain per year. The cutoff is 10 inches of rain per year. We have a beautiful developing juniper forest, and just being able to harvest biomass out of natural growth, to say I'm like even grooming trees around here, put it through a wood chipper. I can make compost. There's a ton of different ways, right? I can bring it. We're not talking about outer space. Let's be as scarce, but using that thought exercise, what's the most efficient way to manage it? And if you can bring in piles of horse shit, cow shit, or just wood shavings, you've already got that problem solved in abundance, right?
Yeah, there's a reason we call the company Eden, and it really is, I believe that it's humanity's mandate to be gardeners. We're meant to cultivate the environment in the most positive way for the environment to be natural and to flourish and to grow. So, and we can do that. The technology is there to do that. We just have to have the will to decide that we want to do that.
Well, in my case, it's more like just, yeah, the will, getting off my ass and putting together my scrap wood and building a greenhouse. But I think you've finally given me the inspiration to say, okay, this is the pinnacle of the application of this technology that I want to incorporate in designing an overall food system for my homestead that incorporates chickens and hydroponics. And you've convinced me to consider aquaponics. I kind of discounted it, but also, greenhouses, thermal mass, artificial light, managing bugs, especially with, I want to bring in bugs to, anyway, I'll stop with all my personal fantasies here in Gardenia. The big thing actually we got to solve is the water challenge.
Well, no,
And,
no, no. Remember, our system, it pulls the water out of the air.
oh, so you use evaporative water generation?
Exactly. Yeah. No, our
completely
system
contained
provides
in the
all
life
its own power, water, food, recycles all of its own waste. Like it's the full package. You get everything. When you take that system and you go wherever you're going, like you're fully functional. Now,
All right,
again,
so
what you hit on, the heavy elements like iron, phosphorus, calcium, things like that, you're going to have to figure out how to harvest from the environment. But we're working on that problem, and we
and that's
understand
not
that
hard.
problem.
Yeah. And it's that sort of more, what is your biomass input based on your location? What bugs
Exactly.
thrive?
Exactly.
What do you have? Like if you have chickens already and you've got, or if you've got, deer or cows or whatever, something in your environment that's dropping tons of shit that you just scoop up and make compost and that feeds it, then you got it solved there. But you're using the water, reusing the water in a contained system with almost zero vapor
Exactly.
loss. Is that correct? So it's
Exactly.
extremely water efficient.
It's
Even
99% more efficient than any other watering technique. It's even more efficient than hydroponics because you're utilizing less water because it's just shooting this mist every 15
okay, so,
minutes.
so a couple quick questions about that. So your life pod is contained in that sense. It's more or less airtight, right?
Yeah.
Is the habitat your your larger greenhouse? Is it designed to
No,
be airtight as well?
it's more designed to be you can set up multiples of them because what we discovered was that the HVAC costs, it was better in a smaller environment. So there's trade-offs that the HAB is a little bit more efficient on its energy usage than the Life Pod. But the Life Pod, they're both exceeders in that they produce more than they use. But the HAB has a better profile, whereas the Life Pod's mobile. That's the trade-off that you get between the two different modalities.
Okay, so then just a quick question.
The HAB is designed to be what is it? It itself is modular in that you can buy multiple HABs and start chaining them all together, and they all share their resources so that if one breaks, all of the other ones pick up and start sending the resources to the other one. So it's designed to almost be like a colony that can spread out.
So I don't want to demean that you've created a new term for this because the life pod really is like a new thing. Whereas you might look at the habitat and say, well, it's just a big greenhouse. But it's not just a big greenhouse. It's obviously a comprehensive grow system designed for an environment in a greenhouse type scale as opposed to the life pod.
Well, and it's way more efficient. It's way more efficient. The structure of it, the materials that it's made out of, it's been made to where it can be in a it can be in, well, they're not, I mean, it's not that bad actually, like comparatively to what you would spend to do a greenhouse. Like we've done cost analysis with greenhouse, and ours is the same, is costs less, produces more, and is way more energy efficient than the greenhouse.
Okay, so then about the water generation, the evaporative water generation, because I've looked into this, and the company watergen.com is one example, makes a $65,000 device that produces 211 gallons per day. And for my own, like, I want to grow trees. I want a big outdoor swimming pond. Like,
that's what you would want. You want that.
Well,
you want that.
Well, I want, like, I got juniper trees that live 350 to 700 years old, and they got a long ways to grow here. A lot of the trees on my property are like 10 to 20 feet, and they could get 40 to 50 in a decade if we're watering them consistently, as opposed to over a few hundred years here. So stuff like that, but that's $65,000.
Yeah.
And it's at least $40,000 to dig a well here because we've got a lot of rock between us and the water table. So this is a whole other challenge. I didn't expect to be covering this, but how much? And then there's a if you go on Amazon, there's a home water cooler,
Yeah.
like smaller than a fridge sized unit that you can get for about $2,000. It'll give you 8 gallons a day, but consumes a lot of electricity and doesn't have panels built in or anything because it's just designed to plug in. So, how did you solve this problem for the Life Pod for evaporative water generation? So, and how efficient is it? How little water are you using up with it running at full speed?
It of course, like you say, it depends on the environment you're in. But the one that's in our system, I think it's around $4,000, and it produces, here in Houston, it would produce something like 10 or 20 gallons a day. Out in the desert, it would produce, probably like 2 gallons a day or a gallon a day, depending on how dry it was and how long. But
Okay.
when you're in a situation where you're out in the desert, you would have to let the system charge the water,
I'm
for
not in the
longer.
desert. I'm not in the desert. Stop saying that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Stop
Sorry.
saying that. We get
Sorry.
12 and a half inches of rain a year, and we have trees everywhere, beautiful junipers.
All right. If you were in a desert, then that would be
yeah, you call it arid. Be politically correct, and we won't be insulted.
Okay. I don't want to desert shame anybody. So if you were in a drier environment, you would need to give the system more time to charge up the water, and it has a water tank. So that's just what you would have to do. Could you buy, larger, more expensive ones? Yeah, you could, but we're trying to keep the price. There's always more expensive ways and nicer ways to do things, but you have to try. Sometimes you have to sacrifice some of that to make it price affordable. And I mean, could we do an even better system that had the $60,000 one? And would I probably want that? Yeah, hell yeah. But I don't, when we're approaching it from a product development standpoint, we're trying to figure out where the inflection point between value versus expense meets. Value.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk to you offline here before I get like totally geeked out on my situation. Be like, all right, so how do I get 400 gallons of water here a day as efficiently as possible? Because that's what I'm going for, something on that scale. And we have some interesting challenges, and I would love to be able to
Totally.
study everything that you're doing and design a food system based on that here. And I think what you're talking about is so valuable beyond what you're doing as a business, but in inspiring and motivating people to create their own systems and showing what's possible. And I think you're going to be in very high demand as a consultant designing these systems if you aren't already, for people who want either custom habitats or pods. I mean, already in the products that you're giving out, it's not just here's a box and it's, because that would be out of like unreasonably expensive to automate and have everything at that next fantasy level. But by these that are almost that automated, it's a reasonable consumer price. If you're homesteading, it's something that you want to invest in.
It comes modularly. That was the whole thing. Is like, if you're not ready to buy the whole system, the Life Pod, you can buy one tower at a time. You can buy the components of what you need and slow. That was the breakthrough, because we were originally trying to just sell the master product. That was all we wanted to do. And then we realized just how many people we were cutting out and making it way too difficult to get it. So it's like, that's why we started saying, okay, no, break it into all of its parts and allow people to purchase the parts one part at a time, so they could build up to it and build into it.
Yes. Well said. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Bart. The website is EdenGrowSystems.com. Your final thoughts today, sir?
Know that this is the future. I will say it now. I really want to thank you for letting me get this last point in. The number one farmland owner in the United States is Bill Gates now. The number one buyer of defunct commercial properties in the United States is Jeff Bezos. No one has announced this, but the reason Bezos is buying up all that commercial property is because they're going to turn it into farms and use his decentralized delivery network of Amazon to be one of the major food providers. So, the establishment understands where all this is going. They are positioning themselves. If you want to preserve your family, if you want to preserve your family's freedom, if you want to preserve your family's wealth, whether it's getting involved with Eden or whatever, you should be investing now into farmland, into land, and learning how to grow your own food. Like there is no more important message. If no one listened to anything that I said out of this, and doesn't care anything at all about Eden Grow Systems, if you care about your future, you need to be learning how to grow your own food now.
Amen. Thank you so much, brother. It's been a blast. Really appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you, Adam. And anytime you want to talk, let's talk more. I would be more than happy to implement a system with you, with us working with you, and being a whole beta project for everything that we want to do. If you have the desire,
I got way more questions.
awesome. Please text me whenever you want to talk, okay? And we'll talk more.
Will do. Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you so much, brother.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Definitely worth going overtime for Bart today. But yeah, we're going to go straight to Ed today to wrap things up. Back to co-host Ed Vallejo. Ed, I hope that was fun. You wanted activism. How's that for an activism-based business? I mean, because it's not just that what Bart is doing is seeing a need and filling it and making money. He's actually seen a vision of a world where, maybe, as I would say, there's a box that comes on a truck and you drop it off and you plug in water and power and it spits out whatever you want, like groceries. That giving humanity that. And like there was this majority of human history. Humans were at the local level responsible for our own food. And then as technology got to where it was in recent history, there's this gap, especially in modern industrialized society of the last 100 years or so, where people have been disconnected from food production. But technology has continued to progress. And now we have to bring that technology back to the individual empowerment level. And Bart's doing that, right?
Yes, he is. I was very, very happy to see a system like that that's enclosed. You said plug it in and connect water to it. No, you don't even do that.
Not even. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm thinking for like the average person on grid, but like with today's suburban mentality, hey, food box, drop it off, plug it in, it goes. But yeah, the idea that you could have it's so water efficient. The only moisture that you take out of that is when you open the door and the humidity goes out and you pull plants out and the mass of those plants has water in it. You close the doors and seal it back up. Evaporative water generation, even at 10, 20 gallons a day, which he said in Houston, to a 40-foot container full of grow units, when it's almost zero moisture loss, that's totally doable. Run it with a solar panel on the roof, boom, you're done. And drop it off, turn it on. Like that it could, like, we're essentially there with today's technology already. You're right, I shouldn't be saying it that way. But yeah, drop it off, flip the switch, go in and put in seeds and harvest, and that's it.
Well, I had always envisioned a box that you could send anywhere in the world, that someone could just open up the lid and put it in the sunlight, and it would collect enough water. It would have the growing medium. It would have everything in it. It'd have little panels on it for whatever it needed, and it would automatically put the water where it needed. It would germinate seed and grow whatever it is it's supposed to grow on the label of the box. I mean,
yeah.
When I saw a small campfire, a little rocket stove campfire that has a little module on the side of it, that once you light the fire in there and the fire starts burning, you could plug your cell phone into the module on the side and it converts the heat into electricity and charges your phone. I mean, when I saw that, it's like, hey, everything's getting miniaturized to the point where we can automate everything.
But you're going to be able to power your cell phone by walking. Like you're just the heat generator for your body as well. It'll be a chip in your arm at that point, or in your brain. But yeah, all these technologies are converging too. It's an exciting.
Our winner today, I hope he's not a part of the club already. Our winner today is celebrating conservatism.
I think he's won a few times already. So congratulations to the Producers Club for defending its exclusivity today.
I'm telling you, the guy, when he posted all this stuff that he had done, and at one point he ran for libertarian and got 7%. and generated a bunch of dark money against him. It's like, hey, I like this guy. He actually get out there and he rattled some cages. So
Yeah.
right
Awesome.
on to you, dude, or
Awesome.
chick, or or other.
Well, so Ed, we've covered a lot of different homesteading stuff, unintentional theme in today's show. Any thoughts on that? I mean, what are you working on right now?
I was pretty amazed that nobody in the comments, nobody came up with a question that was in my mind, forefront of my mind through the whole speech, everything you guys said is how much? What is your system
What's
cost?
the price now for this?
What's the price on a module? What's the price on one truck that pulls up onto my place and starts spitting out food? I don't, that was the one point I didn't get out of it.
I lost my Wi-Fi connection. Click on shop there. Now go to shop. It's not under our products. So there we go. So they've got modular systems broken down. Units as small as $1,900 for I think their basic system there, up to $2,400. But I think their concept is you call them for a custom design if you want a pod or a hab installed. Although, yeah, we could have gotten a little more to the nuts and bolts of the sales side of this. But I figure anybody who's interested in this is going to go look at the website, EdenGrowSystems.com, and do some research and see what's possible for themselves. It's not and raising the issue of the price. I mean, those are pretty expensive for components of a modular grow system. But as he said, well, he did say at one point it was with 3,000, or it pays for itself in 3 months. I forget what metric he was using for that, but this technology is still expensive. Shipping containers are still expensive. Eventually, if this gets popular enough, or when it gets popular enough, instead of using shipping container, there will be a cheaper custom-built container option for this, right? All of the components will become cheaper and cheaper as we go. And eventually, like right now, you're still going to spend, I mean, a 40-foot shipping container, not like just 8 feet high. Mine's a 9.5 tall cube here, or high cube. Was $3,400. That was 5 years ago. I imagine they're a little more expensive now. The shipping container market's kind of funny like that. But it's still a few $1,000s for a container. It's going to be a few $1,000s for equipment inside. There's no way around it at this point. But eventually, it's going to come down to, I hope you can get a unit for $2,000 that you drop it off, turn it on, and it feeds a family.
On one hand, you say, with time and development, price will come down. As we watch the price of everything escalate exponentially, there's no way in hell. I'm sorry.
Relative to the value of an hour of human labor, prices still come down, and the development of this is going to make it more possible to have, so right now, if you said, hey, Eden Grow Systems, hey, every producer of anything like this in the market, I want a shipping container dropped off that feeds me, there's going to be a lot of customization, and it's going to be kind of expensive because not very many people are doing that. But if a million Americans say we want that, they're going to find a way to mass produce it, custom order it, deliver it with a drone way more efficiently. And that's what I think of as part of the activism of this, and that it's developing a market and a demand while creating a product and making the technology available for people to develop their own version of. Anyway, Ed, I got to cut it off there. Thanks for joining us today. Great job. Congratulations to celebrating conservatism for defending the exclusivity of the Producers Club again today, Ed. All right, take us home, Producer Jim, and smoke weed every day.
Smoke weed every day. Well, I don't have that one lined up if you want me to do the other one. So, yeah, AdamVersusTheMan.com, man. That's what I had ready. That's what I'm like, what do you want to promote? We want to promote AdamVersusTheMan.com, mostly because CJ has added some new items to the shop. Click shop there. You go to this button, you click on sort by the latest, and it's going to bring you the new items that anything new that's on the page, that's where you're going to find it. And don't forget to be a patron member at $10 a month. That's going to get you access to the Producers Club, and Producers Club members and better patrons get 15% off and free shipping on everything they purchase at the merchandise store with the Adam vs. Man show logo or the Freedom logo on it. Very awesome. Also visit cigarfederation.com. Our good buddies there, they have awesome cigars. Use promo code Adam10 to get 10% off. Always a great time. Check out Instagram at the Garden of Freedom to check out all the cool pictures Adam's been posting of life up there in the garden. And after that, go visit thecrypto6.com and help those guys out. We're sick of seeing them in the situation that they're in, so get them out of it. And lastly, our good friends at gogreenenergyonline.com. They got a great website with great resources. Educate yourself. Good times. That's all I got.
And finally, for good news on this day in history from goodnewsnetwork.org, we get to say happy birthday to Thomas Jefferson, who, if he was alive today, would be 278 years old, having been born in 1743. And with that, peace and love, y'all. Choose happiness and be excellent to each other.